Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Dinnerhe as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen, or rather the album on the screen from RAYE, titled This Music May Contain Hope. Now, I have listened to music from this album before in videos, specifically such as Lifeboat. Again, we're going to be checking out Goodbye Henry today, featuring Al Green. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This is a sad song, though it feels happy. It is not happy at all. In fact, it makes me so sad to sing this song. But I must sing it for you anyway.
Wonderful harmonies.
This song is called Goodbye Henry, and I wrote it about a boy, a very lovely boy. And his name isn't even Henry, but I'm just trying to be respectful. We don't talk anymore. Could be next door, wouldn't even know. In another life we could have made it, but in this one, well, we let go. And I remember last time I seen him, it was a devastating day at the railway tavern, my local, and we had no words to say. So I sipped my gin in silence, and I kissed the man goodbye, and we dried each other's tears, and I told him, Henry, oh, I wish you only love and happiness, and I'm swallowing tears as I'm watching you drive away through my window. I don't want you to go. How could I, baby? Oh,
Great use of the brass
I do
and
hope
guitar
you'll
elements.
try your best, and you'll drink a little less. Let's pretend, Henry, maybe one day we could try again. Don't forget me or regret me. I tell him goodbye, Henry. I told you this was a sad song. I did try to warn you, in case you relate, in case your sorry heart is also breaking, in case you're driving to work and every bloody left turn you take just so happens to be down memory lane. And is that pain the aching kind that I also mean in me? I really did. And another love like where is spring, and we have 3 beautiful children. And it hurts to never see him, but the world still turns around. So I squeezed his lovely hand so tight, and I told him, oh, I wish you only love and happiness, and I'm swallowing tears as I'm watching you drive away through my window. I don't want you to go. How could I, baby? Oh, I do hope you'll try your best, and you'll drink a little less, and who knows, Henry, maybe one day we could try again. Don't forget me or regret me. I tell him goodbye, Henry. I told you this was a sad song.
I mean, the vocal layers are so
It's my
lush.
pleasure to say that all the way from Memphis, Tennessee, put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Al Green.
Hello, how are you? I hope you're well. It's nice to be on the microphone with a story to tell. I think of all the memories, some bitter, some sweet. The people I've loved and the people I'll never get to greet. 'Cause heartaches don't get easy. Pain of losing love. Time will have the healing. The Christ is up above. Sometimes in life we have to say goodbye. Tears falling from our eyes.
I pray it won't hurt like it does tonight. Is
Fantastic feature.
only life. Happiness. Swallowing tears. Then I watch you drive through my window. I don't want you to go. How could I, baby? Oh,
Al Green's voice is very distinctive. Great key change.
drink a little less. Or maybe one day we could try again. Don't forget me or regret me. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. La, 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 la.
Double.
Feeling better now. And I will be loved, I said. Still in love, still in love, still in love.
Don't forget,
Na, na, na.
Is that 4
And I
key
guess
changes?
sometimes that's just how it goes. Sometimes love sticks around, and sometimes love hits the road. And as I watch Henry drive out of my life, I warned you, dear listener, didn't I? When I told you before, this was a sad, sad, sad song. Drop it here. Brooksy can't see.
Tremendous. Fantastic. I appreciate the chemistry and cohesion with what occurred here with this track with Ray and Al Green. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from Max Ray featuring Al Green, titled Goodbye Henry. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my thoughts from a general listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think this track most importantly is about Ray's connection to an individual named Henry who they loved a lot, and they drank too much, but there could have also been a chance at a really bright future, and effectively it's just about kind of grieving the loss of this person, wishing them well, hoping that they're doing okay, to discussing how much you love them, but just kind of like accepting that they're gone, kind of struggling with it, going through the plethora of emotions and sort of like interactions and kind of stages you go through in terms of that loss there. It was really well balanced. The imagery was strong. It was also delivered in a way which I feel was quite relatable. I think Al Green coming in to give their own perspective on their own feeling of the people they lived in love and loss and stuff like that was also quite effective, partially because I think just these two people in different stages of their lives with their own perspectives, especially with Al Green, I presume, Al Green is 80 years old at the time of recording this, and this album came out this year. So they're in different stages of their life, but they're kind of putting their thoughts forward, and it's kind of cool to see the parallel between these two people and how they experience things. I feel like the introduction of Al Green as well by RAYE is great. Like, they handle their choruses and verses really neatly, but they also give presence and like a warm welcome to the other people that are involved. I dig that a lot. And it's also great to hear them come together at the end, just the way that like Al comes in a little bit there just to kind of add a bit of air candy to that last moment there. You got that kind of fourth wall breaking a little bit to the dear listener parts as well, and then you can also kind of hear them kind of dropping it here, talking to the people that are playing music alongside them. The vocal performances outside of the storytelling are great. You know, Ray's clearly got solid vocal technique, very comfortable in the head and chest voice. They explore their range really neatly, and they go between ranges effectively. We have some spoken parts as well, which is a bit more sort of like accessible and sort of like shows a confidence, like they are a performer telling a story throughout the album. This music may contain hope. And when Al Green comes in with their voice, they're so distinctive with their alternate texture and timbre that it's an immediate kind of contrast to what Ray is doing. And it just helps them kind of feed off each other and provide further sort of like compositional and textural diversity within the piece. Al's vocals are on point as well. We hit the notes cleanly, and there's nice vibratos in moments, especially at like the quieter range. Like it's a solid display of vocal technique. Not just when you can belt and do fun sort of like legato runs, but also when you're a bit more sort of like low key with the volume of it, but you can still hear that warble in there. And I want to also give a shout out to what's going on with the vocal harmonies there. The majority of the time we've got some double layering in different octaves or intervals of those vocals there, with a variety of different rhythms that are added in addition to the lines that are sung and spoken. And ultimately there's just enough sort of variety there harmonically as well as melodically to keep us through across this 5-minute 20 track. And it's expressed in a way where it is bittersweet, and it's like we're trying to find a way of kind of coming to terms with it. And they acknowledge that it's kind of a sweet sounding track even though it's sad, and I kind of feel like that's not too on the nose even though it could have been. They just handle it with finesse. And with musicians of these caliber, it's not surprising that they would know how to do that. I think it's a story that people can relate to, having to watch people go, and these two musicians tell it well. Structurally, you have a variety of different verse and chorus sections not including the feature from L. It's ultimately about the storytelling as opposed to trying to sort of like make it more of a specific alt lead instrumental focus there. The focus is RAYE and Al Green when they come in, and that's totally fine. The transfers are seamless. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on instrumentally, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it's just stating here that there is a clear sort of emphasis on certain elements above others, and that's kind of what helps the track work so well. If RAYE wasn't as interesting with the way they communicate with the listener, that'd be a detriment, but thankfully we're not in that position. You've got these wonderful jazzy, soulful chord progressions that are enhanced by the mixture of the organs, the strings, the guitars, the bass, and the drums, with each performing core functions that elevate this piece. From the moment you have that 1, 2, 3, 4 count in, you have those harmonies illustrate that mid and upper range really neatly. But then the bass in the low end is so neat with how it explores both the root notes of those main chord progressions as well as explores its fretboard a little bit and modulates occasionally. It just has a freedom to be able to sort of move and mess around in a way that's very positive. And it's present in a way which I wasn't necessarily expecting. This is not an overly compressed track there. There's some headroom to it. There's a sense of life to it. It's vivacious. I think as well, you've got the drum kit underneath, and the drum playing in general, the percussion in this track is relatively subtle. There are some stops in there at some moments where it does come to the forefront, but ultimately it's just a really chill kind of like eighth note groove underneath with a mixture of different hi-hats, rides, maybe crashes, kicks and snares with some occasional minimalist fills. We're not overdoing it on the kit. There's some simple sort of snare fills, dut-duts, you got some open hi-hats and stuff like that, but it's predominantly more about the coloration and the chordal and lead elements rather than trying to have a drum solo in the middle. But it's more about the function, the groove, the dance through life, I suppose. And it's just worth noting that in lieu of that, the bass and drums do feature very strongly as really reliable supporting elements in a really positive way. What I kind of dig is the kind of low-key, lo-fi ambience of those guitar parts with the way they're kind of chorused and a little bit reverbed and kind of shimmery and shiny. There's just this wonderful glow to those guitars and how they present their different extended bar chords there and arpeggios. It's just nice to have little melodies and little niches there within the layering of the parts there in a way that doesn't overcolor or oversaturate it. There's still so much room for RAYE in the track, in part because of how the guitars don't go too high in their range. When the brass is there, they're either staccatos to kind of be more percussive or rhythmic, or they're kind of allowing a kind of a slow build or a crescendo there to kind of ramp up to certain bits and kind of taper off again. And there's some wonderful sort of like organ resonances I mentioned there that have a nice sort of tremolo to them. They kind of flutter in the mix and they're not the same loudness the whole entire time they're played there. They kind of come in and out like waves. It's just all these lush layers combine to create this kind of effervescent experience within the piece that is gentle and charming to listen to while you kind of take in the story. And as we go through the piece, you continue to hear the string section decorate the mids and highs in a way where it's on the sides of the stereo field and doesn't really interfere with the vocals or any of the other elements too much. It's relatively subtle and subdued, I think primarily because it's trying not to overstay its welcome. I think it can become a little bit discombobulating when you do have things sort of fight for attention here, and I think the strings, especially with multiple instruments within that group there, they just stack those different elements there in a way where they flutter and fly and remind me a lot of that kind of soul and even kind of disco of like the late 20th century. It's kind of harkens back to an earlier time there. There's a nostalgia there, and I think maybe even we're potentially trying to sort of cater towards some of the music that Al Green might have personally been involved in as well, which is just a nice connection between these two musicians from these different eras coming together for like a common interest. But yeah, ultimately, we decorate the string parts alongside the brass, alongside the guitar and back keys and bass and drums. They all culminate in this wonderful arrangement that does not present itself completely all the time. Like there is a moment where it is simply just the vocals. And I like how minimalist and like less intense that is, simply to bring down from like the consistency of how the track in general has been sort of glued. The production is tight. but it also allows those 3 or 4 key signature changes as we build up and up and up and up in that final chorus to really provide a nice kind of like counterpoint to a lot of what's accepted within choruses, outro choruses, of having either an alternate lead solo or 1 key change. Having that kind of playfulness with, oh, where are we going to go next? Lifting ourselves up further and further and further, while not necessarily getting the resolution we may want, sort of like in terms of the story. It just shows that that's how life is. Life will continue to bring you up regardless of how you're doing. You just got to kind of roll with the punches. And I think that's interesting that the music takes you through all these different chapters, all these fleeting emotions, just getting higher and higher despite that. As Al Green and RAYE come together, though, you just have a slight adjustments to the way the instruments are put together as it builds and builds and builds after Al's feature, and it's just very satisfying to have that finale there, that adjustment there structurally to not just repeat the chorus and sort of stay on our tidings there. We don't take listeners' attention for granted. And that last little vocal run there before the instruments close ourselves out is just fantastic. You can tell they're all playing in the same room there, and it's just a really tight instrumental performance outside of what's provided with the vocals and the storytelling there and the structure of it in general. It's just, this is a very, very good album. And clearly everyone involved wanted to be there. And I'm just thankful that I had the chance to review more RAYE's music, and I appreciate that sincerely. Thematically, it's major leaning, but they kind of have already sort of like mentioned in the music that that's a deliberate thing. I think that maybe it would have been on the nose, arguably, to have had the track be minor leaning and kind of really sad and down depressed and dumps. It would have insinuated maybe a sense of like disingenuity with our wanting to have this person to have a better life, or maybe that we wanted to maybe try later on for something. I just kind of dig the breeziness of it and the emotional equilibrium and sophistication that is provided in part through what they're communicating here harmonically. With a variety of different chords that are presented, I can't help but think we potentially have some parallel major and minors, or maybe even some chromatics involved there. It's just a stunning display of musicality and attention to detail with the nuance of the story we're telling, and how to implement it in a way where it's both accessible to a wider audience whilst also being ambivalent enough to take whatever you want from it. And just the way that we kind of like have this overall excitement with the rhythms on the various sections and the way things kind of flutter and flourish and glissando, etc. It's just a really wonderful, loving, caring experience there. And I think that's a final note. The chord choices, the progressions, the transfers, they kind of insinuate to me a love for this person beyond the difficulties and struggles that we're having there. And I think that's just a really smart way to approach subject matter like this as well, for the music to hint at it, to provide a further compass. So that's really cool. Studio recording, mixing and mastering is tremendous. You know, it's not over compressed by any means, but it still pumps. Bit of side chanting, tiny spit though. When the drums aren't too dominant in this one. The vocals, guitar, bass, drums, strings, brass and keys are well positioned within the stereo field, nice and wide in the headphones, and there's no weird resonances in the frequency spectrum. The takes from RAYE across the harmonies on the sides and the center, etc. Things dance around it. It's very full sounding, really satisfied with how those things are put forward. It's just full of life, and we don't need any sort of like polishing or fixing in post to the vocals. Everyone involved can just sing. I especially like the tone of Al's voice in this. It just sounded kind of raw and very authentic. But yeah, honestly, commercial grade in terms of production. No applicable constructive critique from me in terms of the way that things were done here or presented. It just sounded like everyone again in the room played the best that they needed to in a way that had great chemistry. And from a final general listener's perspective, I sit here thinking, what could we have possibly, what could we have done to improve this? And I just think as an isolated concept, it's just kind of like a very sort of chilled out Labrador. That's just being honest with you about its situation. While this isn't necessarily my favorite type of music, I do nonetheless, I appreciate the musicality and the finesse required. And I just also appreciate the fact that I can just genuinely hear people playing their instruments. I have a sense of joy in hearing musicians together in the room who clearly understand what they're doing, making something special. And again, I think the collaboration from RAYE and Al Green, this is to be commended there. It's just people from different eras and different perspectives coming together to discuss a shared experience, or at least a shared topic. But thank you very much for watching my review of this track from RAYE and Al Green, titled Goodbye Henry. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on. And I'll catch you in the next SU Patrons video. Spiderhands Out.